The Galactic Science Academy was the most respected place of learning in the known universe. It sat on a small moon that circled a gas giant in a system with 3 suns. The buildings were made of crystal that never got dirty and metal that never rusted. Scientists from 100 different species came here to study and learn. They had solved many great problems of the universe. They knew how to travel faster than light. They could make sick bodies well again. They could build machines that thought almost like living beings. But there was one problem they could not solve, one mystery that made no sense to them, and that mystery was humans. Dr. Zixvorten stood before a large screen in the main lecture hall. She was from a species called the Calvari. They had blue skin and 4 eyes that could see things other beings could not. Her people were known for being very smart and very logical. They had been studying the universe for 50,000 years. "We have a problem," she said to the room full of scientists. "Humans have been part of the galactic community for only 200 years. This is a very short time. My own species has been members for 30,000 years. The Threks have been here for 40,000 years. Yet somehow, in this tiny amount of time, humans have changed everything." She pressed a button and the screen showed a list. In 200 years, humans have created more new types of art than any other species in the past 10,000 years. They have written more new songs. They have invented more new technologies that nobody asked for or needed. They have found new ways to do old things, and we cannot understand how they do it. A scientist from the Threk species raised one of his 4 arms. The Threks looked like tall insects with hard shells and many legs. They were even older than the Calvari and even more logical. "Perhaps we are making this more complicated than it needs to be. Humans are simply a creative species. Some species are strong, some are fast. Humans are creative. That is all." "But that is not all," Dr. Zixvorten said. "We have studied creativity for millions of years. We understand what makes it happen. We have made machines that can create art and music and new ideas. Every other creative species in the galaxy follows the same rules. Their creativity can be measured. It can be predicted. It can be copied." She pressed another button. The screen now showed a graph with many lines. "This is the creativity output of every species in the galaxy over time. You can see that all the lines follow similar patterns. When a species is young, they create more. As they get older and solve more problems, they create less. This makes sense. When you have already built the perfect chair, why would you try to build another chair?" She pointed to one line on the graph. It was red and it did not follow the pattern. It went up and up and up, sometimes dropping a little but always rising again. "This is the human line. It makes no sense. They should be creating less now that they have access to all our technology. They should be using our perfect solutions instead of making their own, but they keep creating more and more." "Maybe their brains work differently," suggested a small scientist from a species called the Mavori. The Mavori looked like floating clouds of light. They communicated through colors and patterns. "We could study their brain structure." "We have," Dr. Zixvorten said. "Human brains are not special. They are actually quite simple compared to many species. The Threks have brains 3 times larger. The Uvari have brains that can process information 10 times faster. Yet humans create more than both species combined." The room fell silent. This was the heart of the mystery. By every measure they knew, humans should not be more creative than other species. But they were, and nobody knew why. "I propose," Dr. Zixvorten continued, "that we form a special research team. We will send our best scientists to Earth. We will live among humans. We will study them up close. We will watch how they create, and we will finally solve this mystery." The Threk scientist spoke again. "This has been tried before, many times. Research teams have spent years on Earth and learned nothing useful." "Previous teams made a mistake," Dr. Zixvorten said. "They studied humans from a distance. They watched them like we watch animals in nature. But humans are not animals. They are people, intelligent people. To understand them, we must become part of their society. We must live as they live, work as they work. Only then will we see what makes them different. This idea was unusual. Scientists were supposed to observe without getting involved, but the regular methods had not worked. Perhaps it was time to try something new. I will lead the team myself, Dr. Zixvorten said. I have already chosen 4 other scientists who will join me. We will spend 5 years on Earth. We will work human jobs. We will make human friends. We will learn to think like humans. And at the end, we will have our answer. The Academy approved her plan. 3 months later, a small ship carrying 5 alien scientists arrived on Earth. They landed at the main spaceport in a city called Singapore. This was one of the biggest trading centers between humans and other species. Dr. Zixvorten stepped off the ship and took her first breath of Earth air. It was thick and warm and full of strange smells. All around her, humans rushed past, talking and laughing and arguing. Music played from somewhere nearby. Vehicles flew overhead while others rolled along the ground. Signs flashed with advertisements for products she had never heard of. It was chaos, beautiful, confusing, overwhelming chaos. "This is very different from the Academy," said one of her team members, a young Threx named KRX-4. He was a specialist in psychology and behavior. "Yes," Dr. Zixvorten said. "At the Academy, everything is ordered, everything has a purpose, everything makes sense." She watched a human child run past, chasing a small robot that was making silly noises. Here, nothing seems to make sense at all. "Perhaps that is the key," said another team member. This was Lumina, a Mavori whose light patterns showed deep purple, meaning she was thinking hard. Perhaps human creativity comes from disorder. "We will find out," Dr. Zixvorten said. "Our 5 years begin now." The team had arranged to work at a human company that made entertainment. They would make movies and shows and games for humans to enjoy. This seemed like the perfect place to study human creativity. The company was called Dreamlight Studios. It sat in a tall building in the middle of the city. When the scientists arrived on their first day, they were greeted by a human woman with dark hair and a wide smile. "Welcome to Dreamlight," she said, shaking each of their hands or tentacles or whatever they had for greetings. "I'm Maria Chen, I'll be your manager. We're so excited to have you here. It's not every day we get scientists from the Galactic Academy." "We are excited as well," Dr. Zixvorten said, trying to copy the humans' enthusiasm. It felt strange. Calvari did not usually show such strong emotions. "We look forward to learning how you create your entertainment." Maria laughed. "Well, there's no secret formula. We just make stuff up as we go. Come on, let me show you around." Dr. Zixvorten's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. No secret formula, making things up as they went. This was not how any other species in the galaxy did things. This was not how the Academy worked. Everything was supposed to have a plan, a method, a system. As they walked through the building, she saw humans doing many strange things. Some were drawing pictures on screens while others argued about colors. Some were playing music while others danced. Some were sitting quietly and staring at walls. Some were throwing balls at each other and laughing. "What are they doing?" KRX-4 asked, pointing at the ball-throwing group. "Oh, that's the brainstorming team," Maria said. "They're coming up with ideas for our next project." "By throwing balls?" the Threx asked, clearly confused. "Sometimes the best ideas come when you're not thinking about them," Maria said with a shrug. "We find that play helps creativity." Dr. Zixvorten carefully noted this in her mind. Play helps creativity. It seemed impossible. Work should help work. Play was for rest time. How could playing with balls help make movies? But she was here to learn, not to judge. So she watched, and she waited, and she began to see things that no alien scientist had ever understood before. 3 months passed. Dr. Zixvorten sat in her small office at Dreamlight Studios, looking at the notes she had collected. Her 4 eyes moved quickly across the pages, trying to find patterns in the data. But the more she looked, the more confused she became. Humans did not follow any of the rules that other creative species followed. They did not plan their work in careful steps. They did not test every idea before using it. They did not always choose the best solution to a problem. Sometimes they chose solutions that were clearly not the best, just because those solutions were more interesting or felt right. Yesterday she had watched a human artist throw away a painting that was nearly perfect. When she asked why, the artist had said, "It was too perfect. It had no soul." She had no idea what that meant. How could something be too perfect? And what was a soul in a painting? There was a knock on her door. It was Marcus, a young human who worked as a writer for the company. He had become friendly with the alien scientists over the past few months. Unlike some humans who were uncomfortable around other species, Marcus seemed genuinely interested in learning about them. "Hey Doc," he said, using the nickname humans had given her. "A bunch of us are going to a music thing tonight. Want to come?" "A music thing?" Dr. Zixvorten asked. "Yeah, a concert. Local band, nothing famous, but they're good. Thought you might want to see how we do music for fun, not just for work." This was the kind of opportunity she needed. She had been watching humans work, but perhaps she also needed to see how they played. "I would like that very much," she said. That night, Marcus took her to a small building in a part of the city called the Arts District. The building was old and the paint was coming off the walls. Inside, it was dark and crowded and very loud. Humans of all ages stood close together, talking and drinking colored liquids from glasses. "This is it?" Dr. Zixvorten asked. She had expected something grander. At the academy, music was performed in great halls with perfect sound systems and careful lighting. "This is it," Marcus said with a grin. "The best music usually happens in the worst places." She did not understand this at all. Why would the quality of the place affect the quality of the music? Music was sound waves organized in mathematical patterns. The room should not matter. The band came onto a small stage. There were 4 humans, each holding a different instrument. They did not look special. Their clothes were old and torn. One of them had hair in many different colors. Another had metal pieces stuck through his ears and nose. Then they started to play. Dr. Zixvorten had heard music before. Her species made music, though they called it harmonic patterns. It was beautiful and perfect and mathematical. Every note was exactly where it should be. Every rhythm followed precise rules. This was different. The music was loud and wild and imperfect. The singer sometimes went off key. The drummer sometimes hit the drums too hard or not hard enough. The guitar made sounds that were almost like screaming. It should have been terrible. By every standard she knew it was wrong. But something strange happened. As the music continued, she began to feel things. Her body started to move without her permission. Her hearts began to beat faster. She felt emotions that she could not name. Around her, the humans were going crazy. They jumped up and down. They screamed the words of the songs. They pushed against each other and laughed and cried and danced. Some of them had their eyes closed, lost in the music. Dr. Zixvorten looked at Marcus. He was singing along, his face full of joy. "How do you know the words?" she asked loudly over the music. "I don't," he shouted back. "I'm just making them up." He was making them up. He was creating words to someone else's song, right here, right now, without any planning. And somehow it worked. The concert lasted 2 hours. When it ended, Dr. Zixvorten's ears were ringing and her body was tired, but her mind was racing with new ideas. "That was not perfect," she said to Marcus as they walked outside. "The music had many mistakes. The singing was not always in tune, yet I found it deeply affecting. Why?" Marcus thought about this for a moment. "I think, maybe that's why it was good. The mistakes made it real. It showed that they were trying, that they cared. A perfect machine could make perfect music, but it wouldn't mean anything. This meant something because they put themselves into it. Put themselves into it, Dr. Zixvorten repeated. What do you mean by that? Like their feelings, their experiences, their struggles. When that guy sang about being alone, you could tell he'd really been alone. When the guitar player did that angry solo, you could feel his anger. It wasn't just noise. It was their lives turned into music. Dr. Zixvorten was quiet as they walked. This was a concept she had never considered. Art as a container for emotion and experience. Art as a way to share one's inner self with others. Among her people, art was about beauty and skill and perfection. The creator did not put themselves into it. That would be seen as unprofessional. But here was a clue. Perhaps human creativity was connected to human emotion in ways that other species did not experience. Over the next few months, she paid special attention to how humans used their emotions in their work. What she found surprised her. Human creativity seemed to be powered by something she called productive suffering. The best human artists had often lived difficult lives. They had experienced pain, loss, fear, and failure. And somehow, they turned these negative experiences into creative fuel. One day, she met an old man who painted pictures in the park. His paintings were beautiful scenes of nature that seemed almost alive. She stopped to watch him work. "Your paintings are wonderful," she told him. "How did you learn to create such beauty?" The old man smiled sadly. "I started painting after my wife died," he said. "I couldn't speak about my grief, so I painted it instead. Every tree in my paintings is a memory of her. Every sky is how I felt when I woke up missing her. I turned my pain into something beautiful. It was the only way I could survive." Dr. Zixvorten felt something strange in her chest. It took her a moment to realize it was sadness, an emotion she rarely experienced. This human had taken his broken heart and made art from it. "Does it help?" she asked. "The painting?" "Yes and no," the old man said. "The pain is still there, but now it has a purpose. It's not just hurting me. It's making something that might touch other people who feel the same way, and that helps." That night, Dr. Zixvorten made a major entry in her research notes. Human creativity might be connected to human suffering. Other species avoided suffering at all costs. They had medicines to remove pain, technologies to prevent loss, systems to ensure success. But perhaps in removing suffering, they had also removed a key ingredient in creativity. Humans suffered, they failed, they lost, they hurt, and then they made art about it. But that could not be the whole answer. Other species suffered too, especially young ones before their civilizations became advanced. Yet they never showed creativity like humans did. There had to be something more. The answer would come from an unexpected place, a child's birthday party. Maria Chen invited the alien scientists to her daughter's birthday party. At first, Dr. Zixvorten was not sure this was useful for her research. What could a children's party teach her about creativity? But she was learning not to dismiss anything in human society. Every part of their culture seemed to connect to every other part. So she went. The party was in Maria's home, a small house with a garden. 20 human children were there, all between 5 and 8 years old. They were running, screaming, playing, fighting, crying, laughing, sometimes all at the same time. It was the most chaotic thing Dr. Zixvorten had ever seen. "This is normal?" KRX4 asked, watching a small boy pretend to be a dinosaur while a girl pretended to be a princess who rode dinosaurs. "Completely normal," Maria said, laughing. "Kids are crazy, but watch them. You might learn something." Dr. Zixvorten found a quiet corner and observed. What she saw would change everything she thought she knew about human creativity. The children were not just playing, they were creating, constantly, without stopping, without thinking about it. One group of children built a castle from boxes and blankets, but it was not just a castle. It was a castle in space with laser cannons and a pizza kitchen. Another child drew pictures of invisible cats that could fly. Another made up a song about socks that loved each other. None of these things made sense. None of them followed any logical rules. Space castles do not need pizza kitchens. Cats cannot be invisible and visible at the same time in drawings. Socks do not have feelings. But the children did not care about logic. They combined ideas freely, putting together things that did not belong together. And somehow, the result was delightful. Dr. Zixvorten approached a small girl who was making a story with dolls. The girl had a plastic horse, a robot toy, and a sock that she had put eyes on with a marker. "What are you doing?" the scientist asked. "I'm playing," the girl said, as if this was obvious. "What is your story about?" The girl thought for a moment. The horse is a queen. The robot is her friend who fights bad guys, and the sock is a wizard who lives in a cave made of cheese. "Why is the cave made of cheese?" The girl shrugged. "I don't know, I just thought of it." Just thought of it. No planning, no reason, just a spontaneous connection between ideas that should not go together. Dr. Zixvorten felt a chill run through her body. She was seeing something important here, something that her species and every other species in the galaxy had lost long ago. She called her team together after the party. They met in her apartment, surrounded by months of research notes and observations. "I think I understand something now," she said. "Human children create without thinking. They combine ideas randomly. They do not worry if something is possible or logical or useful. They just create." "Our children do not do this," KRX-4 said. "Threk's children learn proper methods from a young age. We teach them correct ways of thinking." "So do we," Dr. Zixvorten said. "Every advanced species teaches their children to think logically, to follow rules, to seek efficiency. We remove the random thinking. We correct the illogical connections. We train the chaos out of them." Lumina's light patterns shifted to a thoughtful blue. "But humans do not do this." "Humans do it too, to some extent, but not as much. And more importantly, they encourage their children to use their imaginations. They tell them to dream. They reward creativity even when it is not practical. They value playing and pretending well into childhood and beyond." She pulled up some data on her screen. "Look at this. Human children spend an average of 3 hours per day in imaginative play. Calvari children spend 30 minutes. Threk's children spend 15 minutes. By the time we are adults, we have forgotten how to think without rules." "But adults cannot think like children," KRX-4 said. "That would be inefficient and foolish." "Would it?" Dr. Zixvorten asked. "Or would it be creative?" The room went quiet as everyone considered this idea. Over the next year, Dr. Zixvorten tested her theory. She found that human adults who were more creative had often maintained their childlike ability to make random connections. They called this thinking outside the box, or lateral thinking. It was the ability to ignore the rules sometimes, to consider impossible things, to put together ideas that did not seem to belong together. She interviewed hundreds of creative humans, artists, inventors, musicians, writers, scientists. Almost all of them described their creative process in similar ways. "I don't really think about it," one famous sculptor told her. "I just let my hands move. I turn off the part of my brain that judges things. I become like a child again." "My best songs came from mistakes," a musician said. "I hit the wrong note and it sounded interesting. Most people would correct the mistake. I followed it." "I imagine impossible things," a scientist who had won many awards told her. "That's how I made my discoveries. I asked what would happen if the rules were different. Most of my ideas are stupid, but some of them change everything." Dr. Zixvorten was building a picture of human creativity now. It was not magic. It was not random. It had patterns and causes. First, humans experienced more suffering than other advanced species. This gave them emotional fuel for creativity. Second, humans maintained their childlike ability to think without rules. They could turn off their logical brains and let random connections happen. Third, humans valued creativity itself. They celebrated artists and dreamers. They encouraged imagination even when it had no practical use. But there was still something missing, a fourth piece that tied everything together. She could feel it just out of reach. The answer came during a conversation with a human philosopher named Dr. Sarah Okonkwo. She was an old woman who had spent her life studying what it meant to be human. "You want to know why we're creative," Dr. Okonkwo said, sipping her tea. "I can tell you, but you might not like the answer." "I need to know," Dr. Zixvorten said. "Please tell me." "We're creative because we know we're going to die." Dr. Zixvorten blinked all four of her eyes. "I do not understand. All species die eventually." "Yes, but most advanced species have solved death, or nearly so. Your people live for thousands of years. The Threks can transfer their minds into new bodies. Many species have found ways to extend life almost forever." She set down her teacup. "Humans still die, young, old, in the middle of our lives. Death is always with us." "This is true," Dr. Zixvorten admitted. Human lifespans were still only about 150 years, very short compared to most galactic species. "When you know you're going to die," Dr. Okonkwo continued, "everything becomes precious. Time becomes precious. Life becomes precious. And you feel an urgent need to leave something behind, to prove that you were here, to matter even after you're gone." "You create because you die," Dr. Zixvorten said slowly. "We create because we die," the philosopher agreed. "Every painting, every song, every story, every invention, they are all our way of saying I was here, I existed, I mattered. When we create something, a piece of us becomes immortal. Long after we're gone, our creations remain." Dr. Zixvorten sat in silence for a long time. This was the missing piece. This was what connected everything together. Human creativity was not just a skill or a trait. It was a response to death. It was life fighting against the darkness. It was the human refusal to be forgotten. 4 years had passed since Dr. Zixvorten first arrived on Earth. She had filled hundreds of files with observations, interviews, and analysis. Now it was time to put everything together. She gathered her team in the main conference room at Dreamlight Studios. Maria and Marcus were there too, along with several other humans who had become friends with the scientists over the years. "We have discovered why human creativity cannot be matched," Dr. Zixvorten announced. "And the answer is both simple and complex." She activated the display screen and showed a diagram she had been working on for months. "Human creativity comes from 4 main sources," she explained. "The first is suffering. Humans experience pain, loss, and failure in ways that most advanced species have eliminated. This suffering becomes fuel for creative expression. You turn your pain into art." "That doesn't sound like a good thing," Marcus said. "It is not good or bad. It is simply a source of power that other species do not have access to anymore." She moved to the next part of the diagram. "The second source is what I call preserved childhood. Human children think without rules. They make random connections between ideas. Most species train this out of their young as quickly as possible. Humans allow it to continue. Many of your most creative adults are those who have kept their ability to think like children." "We do call some people big kids," Maria said with a smile. "Yes, and those big kids are often your most creative individuals." Dr. Zixvorten pointed to the third part of the diagram. "The third source is cultural value. Human society celebrates creativity. You honor artists and dreamers. You teach your children that imagination is important. Other species value efficiency, logic, and practicality. Creativity is seen as a waste of resources." "And the fourth?" KRX4 asked. He had been silent until now, processing everything. Dr. Zixvorten paused. This was the most important part, and also the most difficult to explain. The fourth source is death, she said. Humans know they are going to die. Your lives are short. You cannot back up your minds or transfer to new bodies. When you die, you are truly gone. The humans in the room shifted uncomfortably. Death was not something they liked to discuss. This awareness of death creates a deep need to leave something behind, Dr. Zixvorten continued. Every act of creation is a small victory against mortality. When you write a song that people will sing after you die, a piece of you becomes immortal. This is not something other species feel because we do not face true death the way you do. So we're creative because we're going to die? Marcus asked. That's depressing. No, Dr. Zixvorten said firmly. It is beautiful. You take the worst thing about your existence, the certainty of death, and you transform it into the best thing. Your limited time gives your creations meaning. Each work of art is precious because the artist who made it was precious and temporary. She looked at the humans in the room. My species will exist for millions more years. We have time to create anything we want, so we feel no urgency. Nothing feels special. But you have maybe 80 years of healthy creative life. Every painting, every song, every story represents a choice. You chose to spend your limited time creating that thing instead of doing anything else. That choice gives the creation weight and meaning. The room was quiet as everyone absorbed this idea. But there is more, Dr. Zixvorten said. These four sources work together in a special way. Suffering provides the raw emotion. Preserved childhood provides the ability to think without limits. Cultural value provides the motivation to create. And death provides the urgency and meaning. She drew lines connecting all four elements on her diagram. Take away any one of these and creativity drops significantly. Take away two, and it nearly disappears. Most advanced species have eliminated suffering and the awareness of death. We have trained away childlike thinking and replaced creative values with practical ones. We have all four sources blocked. Can you unblock them? Maria asked. Dr. Zixvorten considered this carefully. Perhaps, but it would require massive changes to our societies. We would need to allow suffering, which goes against everything we believe. We would need to change how we raise our children. We would need to shift our cultural values. And we would need to face death as humans do. That sounds impossible, KRX4 said. It may be. We have spent millions of years building civilizations that avoid these things. We cannot simply undo all of that. Dr. Zixvorten smiled, which was unusual for her species. But there is another option. What option? Lumina asked, her lights flickering with curiosity. We can work with humans. Instead of trying to become creative ourselves, we can partner with humanity. You bring the creativity. We bring the resources, the technology, the experience of millions of years. Together, we can do things neither of us could do alone. This was a radical idea. In the galactic community, each species worked independently. Cooperation happened, but true partnership was rare. The idea of one species providing the creativity while others provided the infrastructure was completely new. That's beautiful, Maria said. But would the rest of the galaxy accept it? They will have to. Human creativity is too valuable to ignore. Already, human art and music are spreading across the galaxy. Alien species love human entertainment because it makes them feel things. Human inventions are solving problems we gave up on thousands of years ago. Human ideas are changing how we think. Dr. Zixvorten looked at her research team, the colleagues who had spent 4 years learning what it meant to be human. The question we came to answer was why human creativity cannot be matched. The answer is that it cannot be matched because it comes from the specific conditions of human existence. Those conditions cannot be copied or faked. She turned back to the screen and brought up a new image. It showed Earth, small and blue, floating in space. But the real discovery is not why humans are creative. The real discovery is what human creativity means for the galaxy. For millions of years, we advanced species have been building things that work. We have been solving problems. We have been improving efficiency. But somewhere along the way, we forgot to dream. We forgot to imagine. We forgot to feel. She faced the room again. Humans remind us what we lost. They show us what we could become again, not by copying them, but by letting them inspire us, by valuing their unique gifts, by understanding that a young species that still suffers and still dies might have something to teach species that have existed for eons. "That's very kind of you to say," Marcus said, looking moved. "It is not kind. It is scientific truth. Human creativity cannot be matched, but it can be appreciated, partnered with, and learned from. This is my conclusion. This is what I will report to the Academy." 1 year later, Dr. Zix stood before the full assembly of the Galactic Science Academy. Scientists from over 200 species filled the Great Crystal Hall. They had all come to hear her report on human creativity. She spoke for 3 hours, presenting her findings in careful detail. She showed evidence, data, interviews, and observations. She explained the 4 sources of human creativity: suffering, preserved childhood, cultural value, and death. She described how these elements work together to produce creative power that no other species could match. When she finished, the hall was silent. Then slowly the questions began. "Are you saying that our efforts to eliminate suffering were a mistake?" asked a Threx elder. "I am saying that everything has a cost," Dr. Zix replied. "We gained comfort and peace by eliminating suffering. We lost a source of creative power. There is no judgment in this, only observation." "Should we stop teaching our children to think logically?" asked a Mavori scientist. "I am not suggesting we abandon logic. Humans do not abandon logic either. They simply maintain a balance. They can think logically when needed, but they can also turn off that thinking and let random connections happen. We have lost that balance." "The idea that death drives creativity is disturbing," said another scientist. "Are you suggesting we should die?" "No, I am explaining what I observed. I am not telling anyone what to do. Each species must decide for itself what it values. But we cannot deny the connection between human mortality and human creativity." The questions continued for hours. Some scientists were skeptical. Some were fascinated. Some were worried about what this meant for the future of the galactic community. Finally, the head of the Academy spoke. He was an ancient being from a species so old that nobody remembered what they were originally called. He had lived for over 1,000,000 years. "Dr. Zix," he said, his voice like wind through old trees. "In all my years, I have never heard such a report. You have not just explained human creativity. You have held up a mirror to the rest of us." "That was not my intention," she said. "Perhaps not, but it is what you have done." The ancient being looked around the great hall. "We have been alive for so long that we have forgotten what it means to be alive. We have eliminated the things that make life difficult, but we have also eliminated the things that make life meaningful." He turned back to Dr. Zix. "What is your recommendation?" She took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been preparing for. "I recommend a new partnership between humanity and the rest of the galactic community," she said. "Not as teachers and students, but as equals. Humans can provide what we lack: creativity, imagination, emotional depth. We can provide what they lack: resources, technology, the wisdom of ages. Together, we can accomplish things neither of us could do alone." "You are proposing that we admit we need help from a younger species," a Threx scientist said. "That is unprecedented." "Yes, it is also necessary. For millions of years, we have been building a galaxy that works, but it is a galaxy that has stopped dreaming. Humans can teach us to dream again." The debate continued for days. Many scientists resisted the idea. Pride is strong, especially among species that have existed for eons. But the evidence was clear. Human creativity was real, it was valuable, and it could not be replicated. In the end, the Academy voted to accept Dr. Zixvorten's recommendations. A new program was created to bring human artists, writers, musicians, and inventors into research teams across the galaxy. Human ideas would be combined with alien technology. Human dreams would be powered by resources beyond anything Earth could provide. Dr. Zixvorten returned to Earth to share the news. She found Maria and Marcus at Dreamlight Studios, where they were working on a new project, a movie that would be shown across the entire galaxy. "It worked," she told them. "The Academy accepted my report. Humanity will be full partners in the galactic community." Maria hugged her, which still felt strange but also warm and good. "That's amazing. Does that mean we finally proved ourselves to the galaxy?" "You did not prove yourselves," Dr. Zixvorten said. "You reminded us who we used to be. You showed us what we had lost. The truth is not that humans are special because you are better than us. You are special because you are still young enough to feel things, still mortal enough to know what matters, still wild enough to dream impossible dreams." She looked out the window at the city below, full of humans living their short, painful, beautiful lives. "We old species have solved nearly every problem in the universe, but we have forgotten how to ask the interesting questions. We have forgotten how to wonder. We have forgotten how to feel that life is precious." Marcus smiled. "So what you're saying is the galaxy needs us?" "Yes, the galaxy needs you, not despite your flaws but because of them. Your suffering gives you depth. Your mortality gives you urgency. Your chaos gives you creativity. These are not weaknesses. They are the very things that make you irreplaceable." She paused, thinking about everything she had learned in 5 years on Earth. "I came here to discover why human creativity cannot be matched," she said. "I found the answer, but I also found something I was not expecting. I found hope." "Hope?" Maria asked. "My species has existed for 50,000 years. We have seen everything, done everything, thought of everything. We had begun to believe that there was nothing new under any sun. But humans showed me that is not true. Every day, you create things that have never existed before. You imagine worlds that nobody has imagined. You dream dreams that are completely new." She smiled again, and this time it felt natural. "That is the real answer to why human creativity cannot be matched. It is not just about suffering or childhood or death. It is about hope. Humans hope. You believe that tomorrow can be better than today. You believe that you can make things that matter. You believe that your lives, short as they are, can change the universe." "And we're right," Marcus said softly. "We are changing the universe." "Yes," Dr. Zixvorten agreed. "You are, one song at a time, one story at a time, one impossible dream at a time." Outside, the sun was setting over the city. Lights were coming on in millions of windows. Somewhere, a child was drawing a picture of a dragon that breathed ice cream instead of fire. Somewhere, a musician was discovering a chord that had never been played before. Somewhere, a writer was writing a story that would make aliens cry. Humans were creating. They always would be, because they suffered, because they played, because they dreamed, because they died. And because they hoped. Dr. Zixvorten had spent 5 years answering one question, but in the end, the answer was simple. Human creativity could not be matched because humans were human. With all their pain, all their chaos, all their mortality, they were gloriously, impossibly, wonderfully human. And that made all the difference.